Introducing Fidelity Trader Plus, the next generation of advanced trading from Fidelity. Customize your tools and charts and access them seamlessly across desktop, web, and mobile. For faster trades, anywhere you go. Try the all-new Fidelity Trader Plus. Learn more about our most powerful trading platform yet at fidelity.com/trader plus. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE, SIPC.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered with 30% off orders from Aldi, Kroger, and Dollar General. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Order in so you can lock in for the games. 30% off your grocery order, only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
So it's Free Session Friday today, and today we have a volunteer, Anastasia. Welcome to Free Session Friday.
Hi, Adam. Great to be with you here.
It's great to have you here. Now, for those people listening, how did you learn about the Hypnotist podcast and in particular Free Session Friday?
I found some of your sessions when I was looking for good meditation podcasts, and that was my introduction to your sessions. I listened to different issues concerning bad habits, procrastination, or giving up smoking, or giving up, I think it was the session with one addict who wanted to reduce the use of a substance, and there were some really helpful tools. And then I listened to the session with Brian and learned about your Free Friday session. So I applied, I think, the next day.
Perfect. And some people will be listening and hearing a bit of an accent. So whereabouts in the world are you from? I
originally come from Russia, but I live and work in Germany.
Excellent. And what's the issue that we're going to be focused on today?
The issue I'd like to work on is what I would describe as a fear of taking responsibility. And when I use that phrase, I don't mean that I avoid responsibility. I have a lot of it in my life, but I feel a strong emotional reaction when I'm facing certain situations, most prominently self-doubt. And I also have a strong tendency to delay actions. So it feels like responsibility carries some heavy emotional weight.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a bit of an aversion there. And a lot of people will be able to relate to that. There'll be things that they kind of know they should do, but they kind of back off and they kind of procrastinate and do other things. What kind of things is it for you? Because for me, it always used to be my tax return. I used to kind of think of that and it's like, I know I have to do it, but it became an aversion. What is it for you?
I could divide it into broader fields. My professional life, for one, it would be the clearest example. I work as a teacher, and I carry significant responsibility, not only for preparing lessons and materials and helping my students to prepare for tests and exams. And interestingly, that's the part of the job that is not usually difficult for me. In fact, it's the area where I experience the most satisfaction. Just enjoy working with my students, seeing them evolve and improve, develop. And the part where difficulties tend to arise is the organizational side of the job. Planning, scheduling, setting long-term goals, administrative tasks, paperwork. Yes. I also noticed that I dislike projects that might be publicly scrutinized.
And is that because there's a fear of judgment or a fear of embarrassment? What do you think it might be?
I'm not sure that I'm particularly afraid of making mistakes or of being inadequate, some sort, disappointing others. Yeah. In fact, I developed a great ability at separating the mistake and me as a person. So I understand that it's not a reflection of my worth as a person. And I find it difficult to identify exactly what kind of outcome I'm afraid of. And intellectually, I understand that we suffer more in anticipation than in reality. But there is some kind of pattern or struggle to undertake some actions or some projects. I tend to withdraw. I tend to just not engage in some projects where I feel, okay, there could be a whole load of work coming at me.
So it feels like you're holding yourself back. You know that you're capable of more, but there is something pulling in the opposite direction. And we're not sure if it's based on a fear or some kind of protective mechanism, but you know intuitively that if something represents responsibility, particularly if it's public responsibility, you feel some kind of, let's say, energy going the other way that pushes you against it.
Yes, quite right. Yes.
Perfect. And what does this cost you? What have been the consequences in your life as a result of feeling this way?
I definitely miss some deadlines from time to time, even though this external kind of motivation is the only one that works the best for me. I still really experience a lot of stress because I have to do, just as any procrastinator, to do things just the night before or the 3 days before the project is due. And sometimes I let people down, especially if I cannot schedule or plan long-term goals, and not only in work, also in my personal life. I'm not that good at managing appointments and deadlines, right? And this avoidance, especially in my role as a parent, right? I want to show up as a more confident and grounded person. And I know that my kids notice when I struggle. I know that they probably also notice some of the coping strategies and the avoidance. And I would really allow them to develop a healthier relationship with responsibility, right? And I think they would benefit even more than my work life.
So at some level, there is a thought, and it's not an irrational thought, by the way, that you might unconsciously be a role model where you're teaching your children to avoid responsibility rather than step up and take responsibility.
Yes.
And they might copy that at some level for entirely different reasons. And it might not be from a fear of getting it wrong or a fear of failure. It might just be observing. You know, the first language that people speak is not learned in a classroom. It's learned just by observing the people around them. So many things get learned. Why that's important is, for me, I'm looking for emotional leverage. And I have a feeling that's powerful emotional leverage for you, that the version of you that continues with this at some level might create a generational curse where your children, you see them 10, 15, 20 years from now, and they're avoiding responsibilities that you know they could grasp, if that makes sense. So I'm going to mirror back what I've got from that. So you're missing deadlines, you're leaving things to the last minute. I think most people have had the experience of having an assignment or a deadline, and they put it off, and then the night before it's due, they then kind of scramble to get it done. And what that does in many ways, it creates a highly resourceful state powered by stress rather than being powered by resourcefulness. Now, stress is a resource. It's a stick-based resource rather than a carrot. It's a push rather than a pull. When you've had these last-minute, let's say, scrambles to get something done, does that tend to reduce the quality of your work or your output compared to if you had started the same responsibility earlier?
Astonishingly, it does not. And I think that is a part of a problem. I seem to accomplish things just in this very short, limited amount of time. And to my satisfaction, to the satisfaction of colleagues, if it's some maybe material I had to prepare. And yes, I think that's a part of a problem, but the internal stress is high, and I might get sick afterwards. I lose my level of energy, right? I maybe have to, if it's job related, maybe to have to put some personal aspects aside to create that space for immediate work, right? Or otherwise, just the other way around.
Okay, so because you are clearly resourceful, you're getting away with it.
Yeah.
Life is not punishing you from avoiding the responsibility, and then scrambling to get that responsibility done. And because you've probably got quite a good track record of doing these things, even if you feel the stress, but other people don't know that you've been stressed, even if you miss the occasional deadline, you've built the goodwill so that it's kind of understandable and, again, no real consequences. Whereas a less resourceful version, let's say a person that if they scramble, it's a poor quality work that they do, they might have had warnings and kind of lose the occasional job. They might have changed earlier. So I think the way you frame it is there's a part of you that kind of wishes you were punished or had a consequence for this because it might have fixed it earlier. But because you've got away with it, effectively the pattern continues.
Yeah.
But the reason we're talking now is that you don't want that pattern to continue. I'm going to play devil's advocate now. Why change? You're getting away with it. And, if you're resourceful, maybe your children are resourceful as well. Maybe they get away with it. What's the problem? Why change at all?
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
It feels as if there are two parts in me at the same time, very conflicting parts, right? The one loves staying in this safe space of avoiding certain tasks, responsibilities, because it's of course very easy and comfortable and yes, safe, so to say, right? Nobody's judging me. I can be absolutely myself. I can allow anything to myself. And then there is this perfectionist side who already, of course, strives to do better, to do more, to achieve the goals I set. For example, additionally to my job, I'm also learning right now or doing practices to become a yoga teacher. And that's a long-term project I would like to commit to and implement into my professional life as well. And that would be a great motivator. And of course, my family, as I've mentioned earlier. And maybe another aspect that I haven't mentioned before is that I was diagnosed with ADD, and for some time it was quite easy to attribute this behavior to the diagnosis, but it doesn't seem to work out, this attributing or again, pushing the responsibility away to some diagnosis and maybe help myself with medication for some aspects of attention or functioning. And there is some deeper emotional issue at work, some pattern.
Let me ask you this question. When you have that tight deadline, do you tend to get into a hyper-focused state where you can achieve a lot in a short period of time?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So what we've got is that you've uncovered a combination lock that gets you into a highly resourceful state, but it requires on the pressure and the stress to activate it. Can you currently get yourself in that hyper-focused state just through choice?
I can, if it is related to issues that I really enjoy doing. And just, yes, the yoga practices, meditation would be a great example to that. I can meditate hours, for hours, right? That's not a problem, and really stay focused on mantra or on some other, maybe on the flame of, so that's not a problem. And I also get in the flow states if I do some creative work or if I enjoy playing with my children or doing some work together. Yes, I can.
So let me check this. If it's something you're highly interested in, engaged in, enthusiastic about, you can get yourself into that state. And if you're not particularly interested, but there is a consequence and a tight deadline, you can get yourself into that state. Can you get yourself into the state if you're not really interested in the responsibility, but there is no deadline, you've got plenty of time to do it, and you're not really interested in that thing?
I need to artificially create some sense of purpose, right? Some sense of value to the certain action. So as a teacher, I have to correct a lot of student work, for example, and that is sometimes not the most, I would say, yes, interesting or intriguing part of the job, because there's a lot of tasks, or the essays are quite long, right? 10, 14 pages long. And then I think about the development and motivation and the worth students get from it. And then it becomes easier. And maybe 30 or 40 minutes into this correction phase, I'm really interested also in what they are saying, what they're writing, and get excited about ideas and yes, really enjoy the process.
So once you build the momentum, once you build up you stick with something, the state comes, but it might not be there immediately. I think I might have identified what I think could be the core issue. You used the word perfectionist part earlier. And for a lot of people, what that really means is incredibly high standards. is there certain things that you've got this all or nothing approach that if you feel that you can't do it exceptionally, you don't want to do it at all?
I'm not quite sure how to answer this question. Maybe the aspect I'm thinking about at the moment is, in general, the issue of achievement and recognition that has something to do with my upbringing, where as some of my wins or achievements were just taken as something expected rather than acknowledged or celebrated, right? And I don't know how important that is, but that feels relevant. And more recently, there was an experience an experience brought up some childhood memory that I somehow thought might be connected to this issue of being afraid of taking responsibility. So, not a nice memory, but after an intensive yoga session, I was cycling home, and I I saw a couple of women walking their dog, and suddenly this memory surfaced from my childhood when I was walking my dog when I was about 10 years old, and it was hit by a truck and died in my arms. And I didn't get much emotional support afterwards, right? So that was quite a distressing experience. And the fact of being responsible for something precious, not being able to protect that. So also an idea that I thought might somehow be relevant, but I'm not sure.
Well, the thread that certainly connects is that with the responsibility has the connotation that if you don't meet the responsibilities, you can fail. You can, like, a lot of children are given a task when they're quite young, quite often from school teachers, and they said, like, you've got to look after this egg for a weekend, don't break it, and they've got to nurture it like a thing. And of course, half the children break the egg, and what they learn is that it requires attention and protection and all of those things. And you had an early experience of having a dog that you were responsible for, and the dog died. Do you recall any elements of blame, self-blame, or self-criticism? Any, I should have done this, I should have done that happened? How old were you, by the way?
Well, I was about 10. I don't remember exactly, but definitely, that was absolutely my fault, right? And I didn't hear otherwise. So I didn't get any support from my mom. I saw my father grieving, right, and very sad. And so definitely that was something I internalized, right?
Yeah. So at the age of 10, which is quite, an impressionable age, you arrived at some kind of, even if it was linked to that, but the human brain can generalize beyond an initial thing. That's how all phobias are created. There's one thing that causes anxiety and it gets generalized to lots of things like that. But it might be that at around the age of 10 years old, 11 years old, responsibility equaled risk of culpability. So responsibility equals risk, that you can mess it up, you can get it wrong, you can fail to live up to that responsibility. And therefore, one protective mechanism when people have a fear or a connotation is to avoid that thing, that if responsibility is there, they step away hoping someone else will take that responsibility. Now, obviously, you can't keep a career if you never have responsibility. So if it engages you and it interests you, not an issue. But if it isn't that, you're kind of waiting for some kind of external deadline, agenda, schedule, whatever it might be, to kind of do certain things. For example, marking, your students' work. what would happen if you just didn't do it for 2 or 3 weeks in a row?
Oh, I would definitely have a serious conversation with some other teachers or with the principal, definitely.
So at some level, you know that not taking that responsibility is not viable. So therefore, it's that kind of, it's the stick rather than the carrot. And what we want to be able to do is to shift it from doing it to avoid a consequence to doing it because either it interests you or there is just this pragmatic. Some people have a certain way of looking at responsibilities, not that they have to be enthusiastic about them and not that they need a deadline, but almost like they automate them. So if you think about how people brush their teeth, most people don't need to motivate themselves to brush their teeth or have a shower. It's become a pragmatic thing that becomes automated, if that makes sense. And it might be that there is a way that we can kind of tap some of these responsibilities, because it would be odd to get like marking, kind of homework into a flow state and you're super enthusiastic. It probably isn't that interesting, but it can be autopilot that actually you can do it with very little cognitive resources. What is the best example in your life of a genuine responsibility that requires very little effort to do? You don't need to be motivated and you don't need to be stressed or have a deadline. What is the best example for you of that kind of responsibility?
I would say probably household chores or just doing the shopping or buying groceries that I just do on my way back home from school. Or it's just packing my bag or preparing things for the next day in the evening, right? Just things that are not that big of a deal, and I just complete them quite quickly.
Yeah. So here's what's interesting. There will be some people, if we think of a spectrum of enthusiasm and then needing kind of like coercion or stress as motivation. There's some people, shopping is the highlight of their week and they love going shopping. And there's some people that they have to open the fridge, open the cupboards, and there's nothing in there at all and they're hungry. And that's the equivalent of a deadline. And then they'll eventually go to a supermarket. And you don't do that with shopping. It's right in the middle. You do it, it's kind of effortless. And it might be a schedule thing, or you just go to the supermarket, you do the grocery shopping, it just gets done. And the household chores, I guarantee that you probably even know someone that they will only clean their home and do, things like vacuuming and cleaning if there is some kind of external force. It might be that someone's going to visit and they want to avoid shame or embarrassment or whatever it might be. You may even know someone that's their thing. They find it mindful and peaceful and meditative to actually kind of do that. But again, you're bang in the middle there. It's a responsibility and it doesn't require either stress or enthusiasm to get to that place. The goal here is a lot of these things that currently require stress, to move them into the space that you can do them without resistance, without that struggle, if that makes sense. And I think part of that is by framing it differently, not as, I need to feel motivated, but actually you get to avoid the stress. So I don't know, in England, there's a fairy tale about the three little pigs. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, so the one pig that doesn't get eaten basically does the thing that the wolf wants them to do before the wolf does it. So they said, the wolf says, let's pick apples. And the third pig picks all the apples like 2 hours before the wolf comes knocking, it's already got the apples. So it does everything just ahead of the wolf. In this metaphor, the wolf is your stress. The wolf is, when the wolf is there, that's the deadline, you get things done and you do it well or good enough, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But actually just doing exactly the same thing a few hours or days before you need to do it means there is no need for the wolf, if that makes sense. What kind of difference would that make to your life if you still got everything done. You just didn't need all the stress and the hesitation and the avoidance to get to that place.
Do you hear that? Sounds like breakfast is ready. Because Quaker's coming in hot with morning nutrition. 100% whole grain oats and a good source of fiber to fuel the rhythm of your morning and kickstart your day. And that sounds absolutely delicious. Fuel to start whatever's next. Quaker, official sponsor of FIFA World Cup 26.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
I would say just the mere resourcefulness that opens up for all the other practices, for my children, for my partner, right? So that's this precious, valuable lifetime without stress. What could be better?
Yeah. I'll share a personal anecdote with you. I used to have a fear of, I'll phrase it in the right way. I was deeply insecure as a child, but I had this belief, but also a fear. I had a belief that I was intelligent, but a fear that I would find out that I'm not intelligent. So when it came to my homework, I would do my homework on the evening it was due, and I would still get B's quite often and the occasional A. But I would never do it, when I was set the homework. I'd always do it too late. And it only dawned on me later why I would do that and why I would revise for an exam like in the night before the exam, like some people would call that cramming. And it was because it was an insurance policy against my ego. So if I get the A or the B and I hardly revised and I didn't really, I just did all the homework right at the last minute, I could say, oh, well, I got an A and I didn't even try. Protected my ego. But if I got a C, I could then say, yeah, but I didn't really put much effort into this. It was protective in nature, if that makes sense. It might be that there is a part, the perfectionist part is doing the delay. So if things aren't perfect, you've got a reason why, and yet it's still good enough. That's yes. A possibility. Here's the interesting thing. When it shifted for me, and I started doing it at the earliest opportunity, actually, the main thing is that all of that internal conflict, because so much time and effort is spent thinking about the thing and not doing the thing, and it creates that cognitive conflict, if that makes sense. Just by getting the thing done early, it freed up all this cognitive space to then do things purely from a place of things that I wanted to do. I kind of cleared the decks, if that makes sense. And for me, it shifted from doing it at the last possible moment to doing it at the earliest possible moment, knowing that it freed up cognitive bandwidth, if that makes sense. And that enabled me to do things that I didn't feel like I had the time to do before, but suddenly I'd created it. The time was still the time. I just shifted it from, instead of a push thing, being worried about the consequence, it came from a pull thing. The quicker I do this, the quicker I can kind of do other things. And what was interesting is that the first version of something quite often isn't always the best version. So once you've done it, you can have ideas and say, oh, well, I can improve that, and things get better, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I have a feeling that the biggest payoff wouldn't be the example you set your children. It would actually be freeing up a lot of this cognitive stress, this feeling of I should be doing this, but I'm not. And instead, you've already done the thing, and it kind of frees up the space to think of, well, now what do I want to do? And what would you do with all of that additional time and cognitive bandwidth, do you think?
I'm also into climbing or bouldering, and I very often postpone or just don't go to the center to boulder because I have some work to do, or I have to write a short message to my friends that, oh, sorry, can't do it, lots of work. But that's the work in my head, as you have mentioned. It's just this thought somewhere in the background of my mind that I have these and that things to do, and actually I'm not allowed to have any fun or to have any other leisure activities right now because I have work to do.
So what we've got here is a strategy where you've got this thing to do, but that takes precedent over anything else that needs to be done. But quite often you're not actually doing the thing. You've just got this cognitive friction that says I should be doing the thing, but you're not doing the thing. The time passes anyway, and eventually you get it done, and you get it done quite resourcefully and efficiently, but towards the end, closer to the deadline. And the actual time, if you'd have done that earlier, would have freed up more than enough time to go bouldering and climbing and all these other more fun stuff that you'd want to do. Is that a good summary of it? Okay, so I think what we're going to do here is we're going to do a hypnosis session that integrates parts therapy, the opposing part, the part that has the high standards that says it's got to be great, and the other part that kind of doesn't really want to do that because it might represent a connotation of risk or culpability or getting it wrong. You know, we can have some element of, if there is any historical blame, not for, I mean, obviously, like, dogs are unpredictable. There's so many moving parts when it comes to a dog and transport. The idea that it's 100% your fault isn't even useful. What we can say is that something happened. You didn't want that thing to happen, but it did happen. And therefore you're framing it more on the edge of the spectrum of blame than accident and misfortune, if that makes sense, which means that you're also carrying emotional baggage from the past that isn't helpful for the present. Because actually, for me, I have a very different belief now than what I used to. I used to have this connotation in my head that responsibility is a burden. It's a weight. It's an obligation. It felt heavy. And it must have been about 20 years ago, I flipped it. And I said, the most successful people in the world are those that can handle the most responsibility. They're the ones that say, give me more responsibility. And I kind of equated it, because I've always liked lifting weights and going to the gym, that responsibility, like, the more weight you can lift, the stronger you are. The more responsibility you can handle, the more successful and accomplished you can be, if that makes sense. And I think there might be an opportunity here to shift responsibility from being a burden or an obligation or something that represents a risk or danger to you, to shifting it to, well, the more responsibility I take, you know, the more liberated you are, the more options you have, the more freedom you have, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It sounds great.
And because it's always good to end a session with future pacing, which is seeing the future that you would want if the change really takes root within your mind. How will you know if something's changed? What would be the evidence in your life?
Definitely more engagement with life. I would engage more fully with fun activities, friends, family. I would definitely trust myself more. And I would feel a stronger sense of purpose, of commitment, of value that I also bring into the lives of my students as well, right? And I would be a person carrying responsibility with greater ease, with more naturally, with more inner freedom. That would be a very liberating feeling.
Yeah. And what difference would it make with your children if they saw that version of you that, you know, felt at ease, was doing things at earlier opportunities rather than the last minute, and felt more comfortable, and they didn't see that kind of conflict of you being stuck in no man's land?
They would experience more love. They would learn a healthier relationship with confidence, with self-trust, with responsibility. We would have a stronger bond, definitely. Mm-hmm. They would not have also to take responsibility, if it makes sense, repetition here, for paying attention to what is she like, what is she going through right now, or does she have stress, or is everything fine? I think that is also the situation many children are very sensitive to, just catching these subtle emotions and states of parents, right?
Oh yeah,
and adapting.
They'll pick it up. So effectively, what they would pick up is someone more aligned, at ease, less stressed, and more in that flow state. And what they would also see is what happens when someone is able to take more responsibility or spin more plates. Effectively, they would also see that. And you know, some people pick up on this idea that if there's a responsibility, if they see someone avoiding it, they're kind of learning, responsibility is there to be avoided. Whereas the opposite is also true. If they see you taking more responsibility, and that doesn't have to be work-related responsibility, that could be a personal responsibility. I'll organize this weekend away. I'll organize this trip. That's still a responsibility, but you're freeing up the resources to be able to do them. And we might even be able to have a suggestion in there that the more responsibility you can handle, the richer your life becomes, which I personally think is a true thing. Because when I look at the people I know that are always shirking, and it's a favorite word of mine of avoidance. When you see people that constantly shirk responsibility, generally they've got very little choices in life. Generally they've got less money, they've got less time, they've got less things. And almost everything they have to do comes from a place of necessity. They have to do, quite often, their source of income. They have to do that to pay the rent and pay the bills. Rarely does it come from a place of choice and empowerment. The people I know that have tons of responsibility and they want to take on more, they become very, very discerning with how they spend their time, and they've got lots and lots of choices, if that makes sense. So it's a nice way of reframing responsibility. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start the hypnosis very, very shortly, and take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in that resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation, and as you exhale, give permission to release any stress, any tension, any worries, any burdens or responsibilities you've been holding on to. Breathing in that resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation as you breathe in, and as you exhale, notice how good it feels to release, to just let go. Eyelids feeling heavier, jaw feeling looser. That's it, enabling you to drift deeper and deeper relaxed.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man, an 8-episode series, now streaming on Disney+.
A superhero remake, not exactly what we'd expect from an Oscar-winning director.
Action! Simon Williams, audition for Wonder Man.
I'm gonna need you to sign this, assuming you don't have superpowers.
I'll never work again if anyone found out.
My lips are sealed.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man. All 8 episodes now streaming, only on Disney+.
At REI Co-op, we've got the gear that makes camp easy. A tent that sets up in seconds. A chair you could fall asleep in. A cooler that keeps things chill. So you can get to the good stuff. Late night laughs, endless stars, and stories you'll tell again and again. REI Co-op. Camp solved. Shop in-store or at rei.com.
Because the deeper you breathe, the more relaxed you feel. And the more relaxed you feel, the deeper you can let yourself go. And as your body relaxes, your imagination can awaken. And I want you to think back to a time of clear water and white sandy beaches. Think of a moment where there were no responsibilities at all. That all you had to do was just exist. I want you to imagine keeping your physical body where it is and allow your mind to float to a particular island just off the coast of Thailand. A paradise of still waters and soft sands and palm trees and blue skies. And if you can imagine what it would feel like to be there on that beach, maybe in the shade or under the sunlight, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Just imagine you're wearing whatever would be suitable to be wearing there. And just imagine what it would feel like to feel the warmth of the air, to hear the gentle breaking of the waves, the humidity, the sounds, even the smells. And I want you to imagine the most comfortable sun lounger that exists. Imagine it's there on the beach, and place yourself there on the sun lounger with no one else around, just left with your own thoughts, a connection of peace, tranquility, of complete ease. That's it. And as I count from 5 to 1, I wonder if you could imagine drifting off into a dreamlike sleep there on that lounger on that beach. 5. All the muscles in the face relaxing. 4. Jaw getting looser. 3. Drifting down into the neck and the shoulders, as your arms and legs feel limp and loose, like the limbs of a puppet with no strings. And then 2, just imagine all of your internal organs relaxing. Your lungs relax, your stomach relaxes, and then down into your diaphragm and then the gut. All relaxing now. That's it, and as 2 becomes 1, feel even your toes relaxing, drifting up your legs to the top of your head and back down to the tips of your fingers. And I wonder what that would feel like. To feel relaxed and calm and drifting off into a dreamlike sleep there in paradise. Just connect to that feeling. A wonderful feeling. That's it. You know what it feels like to feel like you've got nothing to prove, nothing you have to get right, that you don't have to be someone else. What if this is just about a discovery that there is already a part of you that knows how to handle things calmly, naturally, steadily. And perhaps that part of you has simply been waiting for the right conditions to take more of what you've been wrestling with. That's it. Breathing in and breathing out. And I want you to find somewhere inside you that exists a natural intelligence that already knows how to complete things, to organize things, prepare things, and not from a place of panic or pressure, but from pragmatic peace. And maybe for a long time, your mind learned to associate responsibility with a risk, a danger, a burden. As though responsibility could mean blame. As though responsibility meant that if something goes wrong, it must be your fault. And if it learned something like that, it might create a pattern of waiting, of postponing, of only moving when the pressure becomes big enough. And that pattern made sense a long time ago. That if responsibility felt dangerous, then avoiding it could have felt like protection. And if perfection felt necessary, then waiting until the last moment could have felt like a strange kind of protection too. Because if the work was good, you could say, I did it even under pressure. And if the work was not perfect, you still had that explanation. I didn't really have enough time. I rushed it. And part of you may have used that strategy in a clever way. And yet, the cost has been high. Because the mind doesn't carry only unfinished work. During those times, it carries it into the evening, into the body, into your sleep. It carries it into relationships. The moment where you should be doing something and aren't is still used time. And when something is not yet done, a part of the mind keeps checking it and thinking about it. There in the background, like an open tab that never closes. And the strange thing is that this kind of avoidance is not freedom, but captivity. Because even when you're not doing the task is still occupying space inside you. And that is why, here, right now, we don't need more discipline. We need something else. A discovery that responsibility, when handled earlier and calmly, is not a burden. In fact, it's the very thing that lightens the load and removes the burden. Responsibility is not the cage. Unfinished responsibilities, that's the cage. And when you complete your responsibilities, that is the key to freedom. freedom to think, freedom to do, freedom to spend your time as you choose. That's it. And I want you to feel a wonderful sensation of just relaxing there by the beach. Connect to that feeling of peace where there are no responsibilities. But let's create a bridge. What if that holiday feeling is something you can experience every time you complete a responsibility before it's needed to be done? That same holiday feeling can come from being ahead. Peace can come from closing loops, from trusting yourself. And so as you rest in that place within your mind, I want you to imagine a path within a dream. This path doesn't have to be a beach anymore, it can be somewhere else. But what if this simple path represents your relationship with responsibility? Not responsibility as pressure or as blame, but a responsibility as strength, as self-respect, perhaps even as freedom. And as you walk along that path, you may become aware of two different parts within you. I want you to think of each part being linked to a different hand. One part that has very high standards, the part that wants things to be excellent, that cares about quality, intelligence, competency, achievement, and contribution. And this part has often pushed. This must be good, this must be right. This must be impressive. This must not fail. Think which hand that part represents, and just thank that part now. It represents high standards, excellence, value. And this part wanted you to be respected, to be successful, but tried to keep you safe through competency. And then think of the other hand. And that part, the part that delays and avoids, hesitates and says, not yet, later. That waits until the pressure is creating a consequence with just enough time to avoid. And it might be tempting to judge that part. But that part has also been trying to protect you. It's not that it's lazy or stupid or weak. It's protecting you from that feeling of risk, from the fear of blame or shame, from the fear that if you take responsibility and something goes wrong, that emotional pain may be too much. But now, in this safe place, those two parts can begin to see each other differently, where the high standard part does not need to bully the avoidant part, and the avoidant part does not need to sabotage the high standard part. Both parts want the best for you in different ways. Both parts want peace. Both parts want you to be well. And they want your life to work. They just have different strategies. where one tried to protect through perfection and the other tried to protect you through delay. An internal civil war, a conflict. But the wisest part, the higher self, can now start to see they're not enemies, they're allies. That part knows you do not need perfection to be safe, and you do not need avoidance to be safe. The wisest part knows that you are safest when you are calm, prepared, honest, and responsive. That you are safest when you act early enough to have choices. When your mind has space. That part knows you get so much back when you do what you were going to do anyway, but earlier. Avoiding the task does not avoid the stress, it just delays. And the interest you pay on that delay saps your energy, your focus, your mindfulness. Postponement does not protect your peace. It spends your peace in advance. And the moment a responsibility is completed, there is a release, a clearing, a quiet. And your nervous system understands that when it's handled, you feel that holiday feeling. You feel completely relaxed and full of possibility. The idea that this is handled, it's complete, it's finished. And you know that to be true because all the times you've done those things at the last minute, you felt that temporary relief when it was finally done. Feel that feeling now. And I want you to get a sense that if both parts are now willing to work in harmony, to do what needs to be done before it needs to be done, just move the hands together until they connect, fingers interlocking. The two conflicted parts now become one. And when they're connected and aligned in harmony, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And I want you to get a sense that you are already changing the future. Feel that you're letting go of all of those old burdens of shame. All of the heaviness of responsibility. And instead, let's attach new ideas to what responsibility really is. Responsibility means you care, that you can prepare. Responsibility means you can protect your peace. Responsibility means that you are capable, you are learning, you are growing. Responsibility means you can be trusted. And I want you to feel that this message is going through space and time, all the way back to that younger version of you, perhaps just 10 years old, that hears that message. The perfectionist part can keep its care for quality, but release the fear. And the avoidant part can keep its desire for safety, but no longer need to use delay. And together they can become something stronger, a calm, capable, proactive part. An alliance that begins earlier, because beginning earlier feels good. And that part completes things, not because the wolf is at the door, but because life is better when the wolf never has to arrive. And maybe you can imagine the old pattern like a story. A house being built only when the storm is already coming. A roof being repaired only when the rain has already started. A task being started only when stress is already close enough to be felt in the body. But this new version of you realizes that you can build before the storm. You can prepare before the pressure. You can act ahead of time while you still have choices. And if you move early, you finish early. And you have more of those holiday sensations every time you get something done ahead of time. And I want you to imagine yourself in the days and weeks that follow. Imagine yourself like you're someone else. Instead of waiting until the last opportunity, you look for the earliest opportunity. And notice how much lighter that version of you seems. Happier, more relaxed, less stress. There is a freedom in your movement. There is a spring in your step. And everyone around you notices. Your partner notices, your children notice, your colleagues notice. And don't be surprised if taking responsibilities earlier opens wonderful doors of opportunity. Because life has a rule. Those that can handle responsibility are offered more. The more responsibility you can handle, the more your quality of life enhances. What if the very thing you've been avoiding was the very thing you now desire? And I want you to see what ripple effect that has in your life, in your future. And if it seems desirable, and all parts within are happy with this new way of thinking about responsibilities in a way where they are desirable, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. It's time to leave that future and leave that path and return to that comfortable lounger on a beach. And just imagine walking barefoot into the calm, crystal clear waters of the sea, feeling relaxed, resourceful. And you will move toward the very thing you've been avoiding. Not because responsibilities have changed, but simply because how you think about responsibilities has changed. It's time to leave this place with a new outlook, new beliefs, new ways of thinking that open up wonderful possibilities that will ripple beyond you, the generations to come. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Connect and calibrate into the here and the now as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.
Struggling with weight loss? Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet is a clinically developed nutrition program designed to promote fat loss while protecting lean body mass. Developed at USC's Longevity Institute, it assists the body in entering a fasting-like state that helps reset metabolism and target visceral fat. In just 5 days, Prolon offers a science-backed approach to weight loss without extreme restriction or guesswork. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/now.